You are listening to Co-Create Your Life. In this podcast, we delve deep into the law of attraction, dispel common misconceptions, and give our listeners the tools they need to build a magical, purposeful existence in their everyday lives. Reclaim the creative power you already possess and join us at cocreationcoaching.org/create. That's cocreationcoaching.org/create.
Welcome to Co-Create Your Life. This is episode 33, How to Make Any Goal Effortless. I am Brandon Oliveris.
And I'm Christine Oliveris.
And today we are talking about goals, as always, but how to make them effortless. What you can do in your manifestation practice to really let up on your goals a bit and make them a lot more effortless than they have been probably.
And this is any goal, not
Any
just,
goal, yes.
Yep.
Because I know a lot of people they try really, really hard with their goals, almost too hard sometimes, and that can be not too useful. So we're talking about how to make those effortless.
It could be detrimental.
Yes. So before that, as always, we have an announcement. If you would like to see the show notes for this podcast, you can head over to cocreationcoaching.org/create033. And you can see the show notes there. You can also leave a comment if you enjoyed our podcast. We always enjoy your comments. That's awesome. And you can read the transcript if you're on the mailing list. So, again, we're talking about goals and how to make them effortless. But before we get into that, we have our weekly segment, Quote of the Week. And this week's quote is from someone I haven't talked about in quite a while, but it is from Lester Levinson. And I just love Lester Levinson's work. Anyone who's familiar with him will know about his story, how he basically, when he was 42 years old, healed himself of a massive heart attack that he was basically diagnosed. They said he'd have 2 weeks to live. And that put him over the edge, and he kind of found a way to overcome that and to become healthier and basically to find a way of achieving any goal. And so he developed what's now called the release technique. And so he's hugely very important figure in this kind of work. So this is his quote. He says, "When we know that we have everything and therefore need nothing, then everything comes to us for the mere effortless thought of it." And so I really love that quote because that's really speaking to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
That when you have everything, and again, you need nothing, that everything's effortless, right? And so let's talk about the bit. So we're talking about making your goals effortless. How do you do that? And basically, it's through having it, as the quote says. But what does it mean to have your goal? Besides the obvious of physically having it, but besides that, what does it really mean to have your goal? And this is something that I talked about in the blog post recently about, how to make your goal into a soul level goal. But having your goal means that you are feeling it so deeply, becoming that vision so deeply that you have simply become the goal within yourself before you ever have it on the outside. Right? Before you ever get it on the outside, you're having the goal within yourself.
And you merge with it, right?
You merge with it. Right. I had a client, and this is like the pivotal moment for me when I really realized this was was it last week? I think about a week ago. Actually, I think exactly a week ago. I was working with a client and I was leading her through one of these techniques from the release technique. And, I've been studying a lot of different teachers lately. Okay. I've been studying because I'm telling everyone I'm going through a course binge of sorts because like about a year ago, I couldn't afford a lot of these courses. Okay. And so lately I've been getting all this stuff that I've wanted to and really learning a lot more, or really putting together all the pieces with the law of attraction. So I've been connecting the dots a bit. And so anyway, I was guiding this client through this technique and, basically letting go of the resistance towards her goal and, guiding her to go deeper and deeper with that. And eventually, when we got her 100% into it, she said, I just feel like I have become the vision.
Whoa, she
You
said that
know,
without you even knowing?
without me saying a word.
You
And
didn't tell me that part.
yeah, I don't remember her exact words. I need to find them and write it down because it was awesome. I was really impressed. I'm like, that's it. And so when she said it was like I said something like I feel like I've become the vision, or I've become this desire, and I am it. And I didn't prompt her. It was a totally spontaneous thing.
Victory coach moment.
Exactly. And I had one of those moments that was like, oh, that's it. And I had this light bulb go off that because every one of the teachers that I really, really trust in have said something very similar to this. Okay. The one favorite teacher I have, Joe Tabanella, who does the Hypnosis and Law of Attraction course, says, to take on, to internalize the idea of the goal, to really become it within yourself. And in the release technique, they say to take on the consciousness of the goal. And David Snyder, who's a hypnosis, I don't know if you call him a teacher or what, but he talks about hypnosis.
Well, he teaches hypnosis, so...
That's true. So, but he talks about hypnosis and law of attraction. And, he says something very similar. I don't remember his exact verbiage, but it's something to the effect of to become the vision. All these teachers who I know what they're talking about, okay, say essentially the same thing. You have to become the vision. And it just really, at that moment when I heard her say that, it just kind of clicked. And I'm like, that's it. That's what it takes. And that's what everyone's been saying. You have to actually become. And I've said that before, but it was just in that moment of her saying that, I'm like, that's it. You have to
just
become.
clicks. Yep.
Yeah. You have to become the vision of what you want. And, in order for it to actually happen. And what that means, so I've told the story to basically all my clients at this point, but Joe Tabanella in that course, Hypnosis and the Law of Attraction, talks about his first experience with the law of attraction where he needed to get $5,000 and he didn't know anything about the law of attraction. I think it might have even been before it was a common thing because this is probably like 30 years ago. And so, but he's praying for $5,000. He really needed it for some things he had to do in life. And so eventually he just kind of has this breakthrough experience and becomes very expansive, kind of like the non-dual oneness sort of experience. And he just says to himself, I don't need it because I am the $5,000 and I'm everything else. And I have it inside of myself. So it doesn't really matter. And so he dropped all need for it. And that very day he did get it.
That very day?
That very day.
Wow.
That very day. And so that, every teacher I've heard of talks about that same sort of thing where, you become the vision to such an extent that you have it to such an extent that you have become it. You are it.
It's almost like you're sort of giving birth to it,
Right, yeah, I've used that sort of imagery before, and I know a lot of people that use that imagery. That's very common.
Where it's, inside of you conceive it, and then it's inside of you, taking, growing, whatever, and then out it pops into...
It's like how I always use the metaphor of the seed.
Yes.
You plant the seed, like in the Art of Reality Creation class, I use the metaphor of the seed, where you plant the seed, and Robert Fritz uses this analogy too. You plant the seed, and it grows, it germinates, and then it develops and grows, and then it's complete. So it's very much like that, you know. But basically, the whole process of manifestation becomes this process of becoming. It's not a process of receiving,
Right.
or getting it somehow. Like, I think a lot of people with the law of attraction, I would say most people, see this process as a process of getting your goal.
I think you have the rebirth experience. Like, in a way, it's like you have the experience of, oh, I am it. And it's sort of like you're almost reborn every time that happens.
Right. Because you're transformed. I remember, like, it was about a year ago at this point that I wrote about how your goals transform you from the inside,
Yes.
because you have to become them. So, I think a lot of people who use the law of attraction see it as you have to get the goal.
Yeah.
And, you have to go out and get it, or, you have to receive it or whatever. But you can't get anything that you don't already have. Right? You can't receive anything that you don't already have, or that you aren't already. And anything that you do have, you will have more of, and more of, and more of, So the law of attraction isn't so much about getting a goal, it's about becoming that which you want to experience. And through becoming it on the inside, then it naturally is expressed on the outside.
Right.
But it's about inner transformation. It's not about external, events happening to bring it to you. That's just sort of an afterthought. That's just sort of a side effect of becoming the goal. If you are a person who is wealthy, let's say, the money is just a side effect of that. It's not the cause of that. It's a side effect of that. You can't help but have the money on the outside if you're wealthy on the inside.
And you feel abundant and you feel fulfilled.
Right. Right. So, you can't help but do that. So you have to become it, and then it naturally happens. Right. And that's how it works. So I think what's very different about this is, and I've realized this a lot lately, and I talk about this a lot in my LOA deep dive from this week. So I recommend checking that out. But what's very different about this is basically, how do you go about having that goal? Essentially, you have to drop everything that's in contradiction to that. Now, I know that sounds common, like I've talked about that lots before, but you have to realize how far this goes. And really, it's about going so far as to drop the desire itself. Now, I want to clarify that, because this used to bother me a lot, this idea of dropping the desire. Because I always thought, well, if I drop it, then I'm not going to get it, or, the universe might not give it to me. There's a chance of not getting it, whatever. So I would always ignore that advice. But yet every teacher that I've mentioned that really knows what they're talking about emphasizes that you have to drop it to such an extent that you're just totally detached. With Joe Tabanella's experience, he only got the $5,000 when he was so detached from it that he said, I don't care if I get it now. I know I have it. I don't care if I get it. And he talks about an experience where he did this seminar and about the law of attraction, and this lady comes up to him afterwards and says, I got it. I really understand. I'm gonna go. Her goal was to find her biological mother. She said, I got it now. I feel so inspired. I'm going to go find my mother. He's like, no. You didn't get what I said. He said, you have to drop this goal so much. You have to you have to become it and have it so much that you don't care if you find her. And he said, then you'll probably find her, but that's not your job. That's not your part. So she went off, and about a week later, she called him and said, guess what? And he said, what? And she said, I feel like I have it. I don't care if I find her anymore. He said, that's great. And then an hour later, she calls back, I found her.
Oh my
I
God.
found her, just like that. 1 hour later.
1 hour
1 hour
later.
later. Yeah, I found her. You know?
Whoa.
Right. But
And that can be hard to do.
oh
Finding
yeah,
your biological mother. That
exactly.
you watch Unsolved Mysteries and you have these crazy stories of people that can't find their birth parents or their siblings.
Exactly. But she had been searching for quite a while without success. But in that moment of just not caring, it came. It just happened. She dropped it so much that it could just come to her because she was the goal. She said, I feel, because he said, you have to become the love that you want, that you're seeking. She said, I feel that love. I don't need to find her anymore. And she did. So that's, and I took this course for the first time 2 years ago. Right. And so, and I use to this day all of those principles. They've all been proven to me over and over again. I mean, it took me a while to really get them to work for me because I was kind of blocked, but they're all in my practice still, except for this particular principle. I just sort of ignored it. Like, I can't drop my desire. He doesn't really mean to drop it altogether. Like I can still want it, that really
But
bothered
want
me.
in
Right.
the not egoic. Oh yeah.
No, but I can still want it. I can still want that desire.
Yeah, but you can't.
You can't. And so, that really bothered me. I can't drop this desire. I can't, and so obviously I never got that. I didn't follow that advice. And so it really impacted my practice, my law of attraction practice. I mean, I did start getting goals eventually, but not really effortless. you know? And so, it was difficult. And then about a year later, I studied his course again. And then I studied the release technique. I don't remember if it's because he referred to it once. I don't remember if that's why, or if it's because of Richard Dotz also refers to the release technique, or he refers to the Sedona method actually. But I started studying the release technique, and they say the same thing. You have to get to the point where you don't care. They call it being hootless, which I love. They call it being hootless. Like, they'll ask you, how okay is it with you that you get the goal? Is 100% okay? Yes. Okay. How okay is it with you that you don't get the goal? And you have to get to 100%. Okay. It has to be whatever, either way. But then they'll ask, what do you prefer? And you prefer to have it. Right. So you have to, in their words, get hootless about the goal, where you just don't care because you have it, and you've dropped all attachments, and you've dropped all aversions, and you've dropped all resistance. And so it just falls, the wording they use, which I just love, it just falls into your lap.
Love it.
Effortlessly. It just falls into your lap. And again, I read that last year. I didn't get the course back then because I couldn't afford it, but I just got the course recently because I actually could. But anyway, I at least knew some of the techniques. I read the Sedona Method book and used some of the techniques, but I didn't really get results because I couldn't drop the desire. I just couldn't drop the desire. And pretty soon after that, I started getting results, even though I was attached, and I figured out ways to go around that. But that can happen. I'll talk about that after our break here in a minute. But I never was able to let that go. And then until recently, and I'll talk about that transformation again in a second. So that's actually good time to take a break. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will come back to talk about making your goals effortless. Welcome back to Co-Create Your Life. Once again, we are talking about how to make your goals effortless. So before the break, I was talking about what's been going on lately, especially with realizing how I needed to drop the goal, the having of, or the wanting of the goal. So again, last year I studied the release technique a bit, and I didn't get results because I wasn't detached. And I eventually did figure out how to get results while still having that attachment. But so anyone who's familiar with my work will know that I categorize goals into 3 categories: current level goals, next level goals, and ultimate level goals. And current level goals have always been easy. They're easy for everyone. There are those goals that you can just manifest.
Parking space.
Yeah, get a parking space, or manifest $20 or whatever. Like, you can just get just like that. Next level goals is really what's been my focus for the last year, and I really got good at next level goals. Like, I could do it reliably every single time. Okay, and that was just through persistence and intention, and focusing on it every day, and releasing the resistance, and just focusing on it. And I got really good at that. But lately I've been focusing on how do you get to the ultimate level goals. Now, I got one of those, which was getting off of SSI, but even bigger, like your dreams, your visions. And that's right now we're starting up the mastermind group, Manifest Your Destiny Mastermind, which will be starting in a few weeks. And that's going to be our topic, is how to manifest your destiny, how to manifest those huge goals that you really, really want. You can't cut them up into linear steps, or it would take forever. Like, you just can't do that. So how do you make that quantum shift into getting those ultimate level goals? And that's been my question to the universe lately. Like, hey, universe, you've taught me all this stuff about getting, these next level goals, which is really awesome. How do you get these ultimate level goals? And as I always say, anytime you ask, the universe answers every single time. And so the first answer was when I got the Become Limitless course from Mind Valley. And with them, they talked a lot about, you need to, first of all, make it into a mission rather than just regular goals. Like, this is your mission in life, that was really helpful. But number 2, they said the 2 things you need to get a goal to make it work for you is you need happiness in the now, and you need a vision for the future. And I realized that, I had the vision for the future. I had lots and lots and lots and lots of that. I was sorely lacking in the happiness in the now because I was so focused on what I wanted in the future that I didn't allow myself to have it now. And so, that was the first part. And so I started thinking about, how do I get that happiness in the now? I started working on gratitude and things like that, which was sort of helpful. But the vision was still sort of overwhelming, where I really wanted it. And so the next step, I went back to Joe's course and went through that again, and then got that message again about not caring and sort of getting uncomfortable with that. And the final step was sort of an odd synchronicity. So I had a client about 2 weeks ago, maybe at this point, I don't remember, but another client I was working with, and she was very, 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 very super resistant to her own resistance.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, so she was very resistant to her own resistance, right? And so I was pulling out all the stops. Like, I was really trying everything I could to trigger resistance, because resistance, I've always said, and this is still true, that you need to move towards your resistance, not away from, because you need to release it. So I'm trying to, and she's trying to feel good and whatever. And I'm saying, you got to admit your resistance. So I'm trying to trigger it by making it very immediate. Like, what if you get it in 5 days? Yeah, that feels good. Okay, well. So then I remembered a technique from Larry Crane, who is who runs the release technique teaches that now. He's the main teacher. And he was one of the main students of Lester Levinson. And he has a technique called squeeze the lemon. I'm like, and I always hated this technique because literally they ask you, what if you never got the goal? And that was right into my, oh my God, I don't want to let go. Like, what if I don't get it? But I said, okay, I got to pull out this technique. I hate the technique. It's an awful technique. It's really not, but I thought it was an awful technique. I got to use it because nothing else is working, right? So I pull out the technique. What if you never got this goal? That did the trick. That broke through the resistance. And it worked wonderfully. So I started thinking to myself, like, why did that work? Like, I hate that technique, And then that was when I'm like, well, let's try it with this other client. And, I had the other client that I mentioned earlier, and I tried it with her, not that specific one, but just the release technique in general. And she had that breakthrough experience of becoming the vision. I'm like, this is weird. And so I bought the abundance course and the release technique. I'm like, I'm going to go through this, and if I don't like it, I can get a refund and whatever. But let's just try it. And so, I started learning it. But that was the third thing the universe showed me. And that, again, has the message of totally drop the desire to such an extent that you don't care if you get it or not. Right? So that to me, above all, has been the key, according to what the universe has been showing me, to how to get those ultimate level goals. That
I squeeze the lemon all the time.
Oh, it's hard. You have to become so detached to the ultimate level goal, to that big goal of yours, to the vision, that it'll just effortlessly come because you don't care anymore. Because who's more likely to get money? The person who's desperate for it or the person who has a ton of it and really doesn't care?
Yeah.
Right? And, so that's how it works. And it took me a long time to really admit that to myself because I really hate that. But that's how it works. And it goes back to how I say, the law of attraction requires spiritual development because, if you really want that big goal, you're going to have to really love that goal so much that you're willing to drop it.
Love is about letting go.
Yeah, and you're willing to drop it. And you have to, the first step to the release technique, they always have you say, I must want imperturbability more than I want approval, control, or safety, or any goal. Approval, control, or safety are the three core ones that everything comes down to. So you have to want imperturbability more than absolutely anything else.
For those people that don't know what big words are, it just means freedom, right?
Imperturbability is not being perturbed by anything, not being bothered by anything.
Right.
I was getting there.
Yeah, well, sometimes you forget that
I know.
You're a little too smart. No,
the
I'm just
words
kidding.
they use, I didn't make it up.
I know.
So you have to want imperturbability, or just replace it with freedom. If you prefer freedom, you have to want freedom more than anything else, even more than your goal. Right? And so you have to drop the goal to get to that place of freedom, to that place of imperturbability. And only then will the goal come to you. So that's been the message that the universe has been yelling loud and clear. Stop caring so much about the goal. Stop caring so much about the goal. And just allow yourself to have it within. And, I'm working on that. I'm not going to claim to be perfect, but, with that, it's hard for anyone. It really is. But that's what it takes. And so, coming back to being effortless, that's really what happens, is that when you can drop it 100%, when you can just say, you know what, it doesn't matter. Not an apathetic giving up. Now that can work for some because they've been holding so much energy against it for so long that when they drop it, it just floods in. But generally not an apathetic giving up. Apathy is a totally different place than acceptance and peace, right? So this is not apathy. This is a letting go that I have everything I need. I am okay. I am provided for. Everything's always okay. And I don't need this to happen right now. Right. So that is what it's all about. And so when you can drop it to that extent and truly become, as they say, hootless about it, truly become detached to that from that goal, then it can, as they say, fall into your lap. Because now, as Lester said in the quote, when you have everything and therefore need nothing, he's not talking about material having. He's talking about you have everything because you are everything. You are freedom. That is who you are and your essence and your core. So when you have everything because you're in that place of freedom or imperturbability, then you do have everything and you do need nothing. And so you receive. Everything comes to you for the mere effortless thought of it. So essentially, everything becomes a current level goal. Right?
Yeah.
Like imagine to the billionaire that $1 million is a current level goal. You could just think, I'd like $1 million. It's done.
Wow.
Right. So because there's no resistance there. So you're essentially transforming your vision, your goal into a current level goal because there's nothing blocking it. So you just think about it and it just happens. Only because you don't care anymore. Because think about it. When you want that parking space, when you want that $20, you really care? I mean, it's kind of like nice, but you're not going to suffer if it doesn't happen. You're not attached. That's how your goals have to become. So having everything means they are in that place of absolute freedom where everything is easy to you because you have everything. And when you feel like you need nothing, because neediness is a lack, and when you feel like you need, you manifest more need. So when you feel like you need nothing, then everything effortlessly flows to you with just a thought. And that's really what it's all about. It doesn't take effort. It doesn't take a ton of action. It might take some action, but it'll be obvious. It just takes letting go completely and letting the goal come to you in the most effortless way possible. And that's what it means to truly be effortless about it, to truly make it a current level goal, because it just doesn't matter anymore. So that, again, has been what I've been working on lately, and that's what we're going to be talking about in the mastermind a lot. So I invite you, anyone here who's not in the mastermind yet, it's going to be starting in the next week or two. I really strongly recommend checking it out, because we will be talking about how to achieve those massive goals in life. That large vision. It doesn't have to be a huge goal. If you just have kind of a regular goal, that's fine too. But we are talking about how to make your goals effortless and how to have them right now so that you don't have to lack. So if you want to check that out, go over to cocreationcoaching.org/destiny, and you can learn more about the mastermind there. And feel free to schedule a consultation call with me if you want to talk about the mastermind, or send me an email, and I'm happy to answer your questions about it. So I hope you enjoyed this topic. I know it's kind of a deep one, but vitally important. Please don't ignore it like I did for 2 years.
Yeah.
It's vitally important to prove it for yourself. Take it for yourself and prove it to yourself and see that it's true. Because all this stuff, I always say it's scientific principles. If it works for one person, it has to work for everyone. Right? So test it out. But it really does work. And I've proved that to myself. So again, I hope you enjoy this topic. If you would like, once again, to see the show notes for this, you can go to cocreationcoaching.org/create033. And if you'd like to subscribe to us on iTunes or rate or review us, you can go to cocreationcoaching.org/create iTunes, and it will take you to our iTunes page. So thanks everyone for listening. We will see you next week for another episode of Co-Create Your Life. Once again, I am Brandon Oliveris.
And I'm Christine Oliveris.
Anything is possible.